what are emotions all about? Especially as related to the journey of transformation. Emotions is one of those really intriguing things, because we've all had any number of emotions in our lifetime, and you would think by now we have a pretty good idea of what emotions are all about. And yet, in many ways, emotions are a mystery, because we end up, every time we have a significant emotion, we tend to be swept away by the emotions. We tend to lose sight of something important within us. And we get drawn down a certain path. And we may later on introspect and feel like, boy, that was a strong emotion. I got carried away and I said something. Maybe that was not such a smart thing to say or do, etc. So this is obviously, every single one of us has had these kinds of experiences. As we start exploring higher consciousness, our understanding of emotions starts changing. We start noticing that emotions are actually showing us there's a lot going on inside of us that we may not be paying attention to. So let's look deeper at what happens when an emotion arises. We usually feel an emotion within us. We may feel it in our hearts. We may feel it throughout our physicality. It'll also show up in our thoughts as a response to an emotion. The typical direction we're taken in when there's a strong emotion arising is we are taken in the direction of finite realities. So in other words, let's say somebody said something to us that was hurtful or offensive. The emotion arises, and then the next thing we know is we're starting to think about this person. We're starting to dissect what they said, why they would have said it, and why they shouldn't have said it, etc. As you can see, we're starting to now go down this path of reductionist analysis of the outer triggers that caused our emotion. And we're trying to find relief out here, thinking, somehow I'm going to figure it out and then I'll feel better. And so this is the biggest trap with emotions. When we start exploring our inner world, that same emotion rises within us. We feel it, but then we naturally start leaning inwards, going deeper into the feelings underlying the emotion, because there's an emotion aspect which has got more to do with the outward manifestation of a deeper feeling. So we're able to go deeper into the feeling aspect. And the feeling aspect can feel pretty intense. So if we're feeling angry, we may go towards the feeling and we may feel intense fear, which is not very pleasant. So we may find that it's changing. It's showing us something entirely different than where we started with the external trigger. This feeling of fear, if we stay in touch with it, it may feel more and more intense. But the beauty is, as our awareness stays with it, the feeling of fear mutates. It changes to something entirely different, such as a feeling of deep peace, a deep calmness, a deep sense of relief, which is distinctly different from fear. So we might go from anger towards something outside of us to fear, something inside of us, to suddenly everything is fine. I'm feeling deep peace, which is significantly different. It's a big shift from our initial state. So you can see how emotions can actually are an invitation to go inside. And when we go to this place of neutrality and peace, now if we revisit the situation and see what actually happened here, we still look at it as, oh, this person said this. But then when we feel into it, our interpretation is entirely different. Because now, in the feeling of peace, we have a sense of connectedness with everyone, including the other person. And we can see the totality from which that statement emerged. So we do not see that as something went horribly wrong and this person said this. Instead, we see this as an emergence of energy from this apparently different person. It appeared in my consciousness, and I started gravitating towards anger, which was a reflexive, conditioned response. And as I did not succumb to the effect of that conditioned response, I was able to go to the primal aspect which underlies that reflexive response. And then once I got in touch with the inner feeling, it actually resolved it within me and led me to this deep place. It led me towards my essence. It went from being something very disturbing to me to something which is, you could call it a blessing, because now it put me in touch with my essence. It put me in connection with the world around me. And now I do not feel anymore a victim of any kind that needs to cope with an outside perpetrator, but that entire situation has been resolved in real time without any therapy. It just in a matter of seconds and minutes, it has transformed us. So this is an entire transformational breakthrough that happened through emotion. So that is the promise of emotions, where if we can see deeply and if we can engage with it and not get caught up in it, then it can lead to this beautiful inner space within us. When you choose light, life becomes increasingly joyful, purposeful, and inspired. I invite you to join me to explore the realms of light, the infinite possibilities that light offers.